Arian was telling me about how the NFL is rigged and how every year he used to get a script.
Yeah.
Day one of training camp that would get dropped off at his locker. Week 1, you'll do this. Week 2, you're going to have a hamstring injury. Week 3, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Week 4, you're going to get 3 touchdowns.
That's what practice was about. It was about practicing the script. Like, this is what goes on, and this is what we have to do. We know what's going to happen, but you still got to put on a show.
Former Texans running back Arian Foster said these things on January 31st, and it has everybody up in arms. Is the NFL actually scripted? Do players follow a script that predetermines how the games will play out? Quick shout out to the origin of that clip, and that is from the Macro Dosing podcast. Definitely feel free to check them out. They cover some very interesting topics, and this topic that we're going to talk about today is really interesting. So many people have actually been wondering if this clip is satire or not, if Arian Foster and the rest of the podcast members were being sarcastic this whole time and just joking around with the thought of the NFL being scripted. But at the same time, a lot of people also think that they were 100% serious and they are genuinely saying that they followed a script. I'm here to tell you that no matter if that is satire or not, the NFL is not scripted, and there are a plethora of reasons why it just would not work out. Now, when people say that the NFL is scripted, they kind of imagine sort of a WWE style, where all the players know what's going to happen during the game, they know exactly every play, and they plan accordingly. Everything is predetermined. Every play, every game outcome, every injury, trade, free agent signing, all of it is already known through the script. One thing to also keep in mind is that a sport being rigged is different from a sport being scripted. A rigged sport is more saying that the officials kind of sway the outcomes of the game in order to kind of promote this one winner over the other. Many people bring up the point that now that the NFL has allowed gambling on its games, it makes it more likely that the NFL would then script its games in order to know what gambling side would win, what spreads would be covered. And if anything, this actually disproves the point of the NFL being scripted, because it is illegal to predetermine the outcome of a gambled event. So for example, if the NFL were to write a script for an AFC Championship game, and they 100% have the winner in mind, that is completely illegal. That does not rule out refs favoring games one way. However, as far as the script perspective, this point already disproves the theory of the NFL being scripted. But there is still a plethora of more points to come that disproves this conspiracy. So in addition to the fact that NFL scripting is illegal, there's also plenty of common sense points that prove that the NFL is not scripted. For one thing, there's way too many people involved in the sport for this information to not come out without any evidence. Now, I know we've had some players saying that the NFL is scripted, but they've provided no evidence whatsoever. You have all the players that have ever played in the NFL, including all the coaching staffs, staff members of the stadium, everybody in between, as well as friends of players, friends of coaching staff, friends of stadium workers. All of these hundreds of thousands of people need to keep their mouth shut, and you're telling me not one of them has provided evidence of an NFL script? The reason? Because there is no NFL script. There's obviously a very large amount of people involved in the sport, and the fact that not one person has shown any documentation or evidence that the NFL is scripted tells you something. Some people may say, well, if I got paid $1 million, then I'd keep my mouth shut as well. But the NFL is not paying everybody $1 million. Maybe some of the mainline players for obviously their salaries and their contracts. But think about friends of players that also know this secret. The NFL isn't paying every single stadium manager $1 million too. That's so much money down the drain from a business standpoint. It would not be worth it to script these games in the first place. Think about it. The NFL's main priority is money. And with them paying off all of these people, they're doing the complete opposite of gaining money, and they'd be losing a bunch in exchange. So the claim that the NFL is paying everybody to keep their mouth shut has no relevance whatsoever. I mean, could you imagine all the players coming out just being frustrated that the game is staged? You have kids dreaming about this moment to play in the NFL since they're very little. They work on a high school level, a collegiate level, and they finally make it to the NFL only to find out that their destinies are not decided by themselves. There's a bunch of players who play for the sport and not the money. And you can bet all of those players are immediately revealing this information of the script as they're not pleased with it. So this point of the NFL being scripted has already been disproven with two huge reasons, but I'll give you guys even more reasons to see that the NFL being scripted is just a conspiracy and nothing more. A common sense question is, what benefit does the NFL have of staging? Fans prefer an organic outcome to the game, and the NFL would not take that risk of the fans finding out that it's later scripted. Could you imagine all the fans the NFL loses once they realize that it's all plastic? It's definitely not worth the risk, and it'd be much smarter and much logical for the NFL to just let the games play out and let the players' talent be the true entertainment. Another thing is, there's way too many moving pieces for every game to be scripted. You have 22 players on the field at once, all making moves according to their script. The fact that all of these players are perfectly coordinated to make all these plays is Oscar level acting, and I feel like they would rather use their talents on an actual film than in a scripted NFL sport. Also, keep in mind big plays made on the field. For example, the helmet catch, or Eli Manning's beautiful throw to Manningham on the sideline, Santonio Holmes' toe tap. All these plays in big moments. You can't script those. Those plays happen by complete chance. No athlete on this entire planet would be able to replicate those plays more than once in a row, twice if they're lucky. The flow of the game is just organically occurring by chance. The skill of the players is on display. There's nothing more and there's no script involved. Now, there's another theory that for some reason people automatically assume that the NFL is scripted because of this. And it is that the NFL is listed as an entertainment business, not a sports business, which in reality should have nothing to do with this argument. Sports is a category of entertainment, so any sports business is able to categorize as either. The NFL is a sport, and a sport is entertainment, so it really has nothing to do with any scripting nature of the game. They say, oh, the WWE is listed as the same thing, but the WWE is also entertainment. Both are forms of entertainment, scripted or not. So the categorizing of this business has really nothing to do with the point at all. Another point, and this is another common sense one, is that if the NFL truly was scripted and everything was predetermined, why would they paint such a bad image on referees? They make awful calls all the time. If the NFL is truly scripted and they have the ability to predetermine the outcome of everything that goes on, wouldn't they paint a better picture on the referees? They wouldn't make them look like inadequate hires, rather they'd actually make them look like solid officials. But instead, NFL referees are constantly regarded as one of the worst refs in sports. A lot of these NFL scripting theories have came about because of these very entertaining games that we've seen recently, especially in the 2021 playoffs, where we've had classic games such as Bills against the Chiefs, Bengals against the Chiefs, and the Rams against the Bucks. All of those games were insane and they occurred very close to each other. So people thought to themselves, oh, this has to be scripted. They're playing at such a high level and it feels like a movie. People are saying, even the commentators say, you couldn't have scripted it any better. Well, first of all, that claim obviously doesn't add anything to the argument, as saying you couldn't script it any better is literally just a saying, and it's not like if the NFL were scripted, they'd give away that secret so easily. Just that whole point makes zero sense whatsoever. To add on that, as a person who's played many sports in his life on many teams, and the competitive nature of sports makes these games entertaining. For example, I've been a part of many meltdowns on both sides, sadly, where a team has a huge lead and the other team comes back. You couldn't write it any better. And that's because there's the sports mentality. Now, a sports mentality is just the mentality sports players have when they're either leading by a bunch or they're kind of stuck in a hole. So for example, if I'm playing a basketball game, I have blown many large leads and I'm not proud of that. But it's a great story. You couldn't have scripted that match any better because the other team came back and won. And the reason to that is mentality. Players will be more motivated. They'll work harder when they're down in these holes. And it's not that it's the script, making a very entertaining game. No, it's these very talented players controlling their own destiny, becoming extra motivated to try to make this a game again. Chiefs-Bills was literally just the most talented football players on earth, because that is what the NFL is comprised of, going back and forth down the field. Two teams that their offenses are better than their defenses, just going ham on each other. Yes, it's so scripted. You couldn't have written a better script because the game was so entertaining. Maybe it's just because the most talented players on earth, including Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, you name them, they're having a huge battle because their whole season's on the line. Everything they've worked for that entire year, all the practice and training leads up to this moment. So obviously they're going to try as hard as they possibly can to win that game. So obviously, NFL scripting is completely out of the picture, and there's plenty of more points that just prove that this idea is false, and it's just strictly a conspiracy. For example, injuries, they happen all the time. The NFL can't go out there and script all these injuries, such as a player breaking their leg or a player having a heart attack on the field. It just does not happen like that. It's a freak occurrence that happens during physical activity. Injuries are prone. Another common sense point is that dynasties aren't really fun to watch. If the NFL was scripted, let me say they have come out with a pretty lame script, especially with the Patriots dynasties. Even as a Patriots fan myself, I can admit that the majority of fans like versatility in the Super Bowl. They don't want to see the same team win over and over again. They want to see new teams, new players, new stars rise to the podium. And it's much better for the sport. Obviously, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but it just makes no sense to believe that the NFL is scripted in any regard. It's just like every other major sport. There may be swayed calls here and there, but these have nothing to do with scripting and is just part of the sport. It's very important to keep in mind that people have a conspiracy about everything, whether it be the attack on the Twin Towers, whether the earth is flat. Every single major event that should be common sense, there's a conspiracy upon that sounds completely out of the ordinary. Even smaller things like Damar Hamlin's injury, which is a super sad event that happened recently in the NFL, and people have been making the conspiracy that Damar Hamlin is still either in the hospital or that he passed away, and that they're using a clone body to kind of mimic him, which obviously is super far-fetched, and people just want to make conspiracies, whether it be for the viewership, the clicks on a website, the relevance that it gives them. There's just a lot of reasons that these outlandish takes are made, and it's not off of any evidence. It's strictly just a conspiracy, and that is the same thing with the NFL. So without a doubt, the NFL is not a scripted sport. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I took a little different approach today with all the talk, all the memes, all the discussion that has been made about the NFL being scripted. I find it very interesting. I like how Arian Foster says something on a podcast that he might have been sarcastic about the whole time. Like, nobody knows if it's satire. And it gets everybody talking and everybody formulating these wild opinions. And once you see more and more people, it's kind of like a disease. It spreads. You got one person thinking about it, and then more people think about it until it snowball effects into something bigger and people have an actual discussion for it. I might make another video on if the NFL is rigged, because rigging is a little bit different. That's a whole other video idea. I'll let you guys know when I post that one, because that one should be fun to make as well. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment if you agree, what are your takes on this theory, and also share this video to anybody else you see having an argument on if the NFL is scripted or not. Hopefully this video puts them to their senses that the NFL is just a sport with very talented players, and that's why it's entertaining, and players work their butts off. They spent so much effort getting to this stage. Obviously the games are going to be entertaining when you have everybody giving their 110%. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next Heaps video.